Hey Thomas, nice hearing your voice and welcome to MetalKaoz.
Thank you, thank you.
So I will start with kind of the obvious question. Were Before the Dawn on hold before getting back to life, let's say?
Yeah, we were actually completely buried.
Oof.
We were never supposed to do any albums at all. We buried the band 2013, and yeah, it was it was never supposed to come back ever again. But then weird things happened, and here we are with a new album and lineup.
So was there any specific reason that you can share with us why you buried? I don't like the word though, Before the Dawn.
Well, back in the days, like 2011, we started to have a lot of issues with the labels. There was some issues with the lineup also. And the last album we released, 2012, Rise of the Phoenix, was already completely without clean vocals.
Right.
The style was different, and to me, that was my transition to Wolfheart already. So the band was like slowly going down for a few years. So there was at that time there was no so to speak light at the end of the tunnel. And everybody in the band shared their opinion that it's time to let it go. Things were rather complicated in many directions. So at that time, it was very clear, and still looking back, the whole thing as a really good decision to bury the band. And yeah.
But as you said, back then you didn't think, you were thinking that the band was done, right?
Yeah.
So what did ignite the fire to get Before the Dawn? And bury Before the Dawn.
Well, that was like a series of very unforeseen events.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that played a big role was the whole pandemic, because our guitar player Juho, he plays in Swallow the Sun nowadays, and I've been super busy with Wolfheart, and suddenly all the borders were closed. Both me and Juho, we lost about 200 gigs in a second.
Wow!
And suddenly, and also the Finnish label that used to release Before the Dawn back in the days, the label went into restaurant business, and of course all the bars and restaurants were shut down also. So all three of us were suddenly with completely empty calendar. Everything that was booked and agreed disappeared. So we got the idea to release the vinyl edition of the Deadline album, and also decided to make one new song just as a present or surprise for the fans. And that kind of left a small spark. You know, we made a new song after 9 years of working together in the studio. That this actually worked out well, and it was fun. But it didn't go forward until we saw Paavo in the Finnish national TV performing Death Song.
Interesting.
And that was that started this weird domino effect. And when it was Juho who called me, turn on your TV. There's one guy doing Before the Dawn song in Voice of Finland. Super impressive, and I never met Paavo before, so I sent him a message after the performance, just cheering him up and telling how much I like his voice and his version of the Death Song. And we started to talk more and more during the competition, and when the finals were over, I suggested we could try and do some kind of musical thing together. I have some ideas that could work with his vocals, and I don't have anything on the calendar because all the tours are gone. So we went to studio, we did the song. All the time we were talking about that this is going to be Paavo's solo project or something, and the song was ready. I was driving home from the studio, listening to the final mix of the song. And then it hit me, but this sounds like Before the Dawn should sound at the moment. And that moment was the spark.
Wow.
So before that moment, there was no talk, no plan of doing any kind of comeback. We were not even looking for a new vocalist. There was no Before the Dawn on the table. It was not even an option. And then I started to call, during the same car drive, I phoned all the previous members of the last lineup of the band. I called the sound engineer we used to have back in the days on the gigs. I called the label guys and check this song, and I have this idea. Do I sound like crazy person? or is this actually a good idea? And everybody was like, yeah, it's a good idea. Let's do this. So everything happened on one car ride when I was listening to a song that was never meant to be for Before the Dawn. But in the end, that song is Downhearted, and it was the first song we released a year ago on YouTube. So yeah, this is the less planned comeback in the metal music history.
First of all, I have to comment that Paavo apparently won the first position prize, even though he came second in the competition.
yeah. I would hope that this brings him a better career than Voice of Finland, because personally, I'm not a big fan of that concept, because it uses it uses the singers as disposable entertainment. It doesn't do good for a career. It doesn't promote the people. It doesn't give you any tools to build your career. It just makes money for the TV company or the record label.
I think it's everywhere when they have these talent TV shows. It's like that.
Yeah, I do agree.
However, it brings Before the Dawn back to action. And as you said, it gave Paavo a microphone in a band. And the way Stormbringers came out, I think it was a great move, really.
I do hope so, yeah.
So
I do agree fully, but it's also, being the songwriter and being inside the band, I have a completely different perspective for the songs and the music. So it's always big mystery how the audience is going to take the music.
Yeah, and being in the industry for I don't know how long now, more than 20 years, right?
Too long.
No, too long. Don't say that. Let's say a long time.
Long time is good. Yeah.
You know how things work, and hearing your story, I think it's something good that came out from this awful pandemic that hit hard the scene, and I think it has the damage that it did. We are seeing now, and maybe the next couple of years, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's the whole touring industry is still in big trouble, and the overall costs. Even with the flights now, we are doing a lot of shows, like festivals with Wolfhard during this summer in Europe, and it's so much more complicated. Less flights available. The prices are huge. Then the touring itself with the gasoline and the bus prices, merch prices, and of course the whole situation in Europe is very tricky because of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. So that has a big effect on how people go to the concerts and how they buy tickets before the show. So yeah, I think it's going to take a while still to things to go back into any kind of normal balance.
Let's hope. Okay, so you described how the band came back together during this car drive. However, when did you start really writing music for Stormbringers?
Oh, straight after the car ride.
Oh, man.
It was weird. Usually I do some sort of quite a good planning with what kind of album I want to write, and then I sit down and start writing, and I'm very focused. But this time, the first song was already done. I already started writing the album before we realized that we were going to make an album, because Downhearted was already mixed. So it was different. I skipped the whole planning part. Mm-hmm. I just continued writing the same style I started with the Downhearted. So the writing process continued instantly when the decision was made to actually do an album.
So how were the rest of the band were involved in the making of the album?
Well, I have very a hands-on way of writing, because in my head I always have the drums playing, the guitars and the bass. So when I write a song, the song comes with the basic arrangement for each instrument.
Okay.
But of course, Juho writes all the guitar solos, like always. Pure with the bass, I just made the very basic lines, and he just amplified everything with his final tracks. But Paavo had a really big role with the vocals, and I work the same way with every vocalist, even if it's Vagelis and Lauri in Wolfhard, or Mikko in Dawn of Solid, so back in the days, Lars or Panu in Before the Dawn, I always want to get the first idea from the vocalist. Okay. I never tell anybody what to sing and where and how to do it. I always want to have the first input from the vocalist. And Paavo did vocal demos for every song, and then based on those demos, we started working together with the vocals. So he brought a lot from himself to the album. So he's not just a vocalist. He's also been writing the songs.
Yeah, and as you said, the return with clean vocals adds another layer in Before the Dawn that you had in the past, correct?
Yeah.
And you have moved from, not in the studio though, right? In the live, you have moved from the guitars behind the drums. But this has nothing to do with your songwriting, right? You are still, although you said you wrote all the guitar leads, or did you write the rhythm guitars? How was the split?
I wrote all the melodies and the riffs and everything. He wrote the solos.
Okay. And I was leading to my long question. What about the growling? Who is doing the growling? I think in the press release says that Paavo is doing everything.
Yeah, I don't do any vocals on the album.
Oh, okay. Because I think there are some passages where you have the two, you have the growls and the clean going at the same time. So yeah. I was thinking, how will this happen live? Are you gonna do any backing vocals, let's say?
No, I hope I don't need to do. Like Juho is doing a lot of backing growlings already on Slow. Okay. And he started to do those. Like we have the double. I think it is very important for our music to have those two layers at the same time. Mm-hmm. Every album have that kind of thing going on, so it needs to happen live also. But Juho is doing the growling live. I technically I could do it. I used to do that in Blacks and Ian. I did all the growling vocals while playing the drums, but that kind of like takes the fun out of the whole playing. It's super complicated when you have a metronome and the backing tracks in your ears. Then you play the drums, and then you have the vocals, which adds another like a rhythmical layer. So I'm just basically it's just counting the whole gig. The different accents on top of different accents, it's just like a survival kind of thing. So it's not fun. I could technically I could get it done, but I would enjoy drumming a lot less.
Okay, makes sense. You also mentioned that when you had Downhearted, you reached out to the label. So at what point did you reach out and agreed with Napalm Records?
Well, actually, it went a little bit the other way around. The same guy who signed Wolfhard to Napalm, he's been frequently, like almost yearly basis, asking like about Before the Dawn, like is something gonna happen? Just reminding that he would be super interested of signing Before the Dawn if something would happen. When we decided like now we're gonna make some music, I just sent him a message like, well, now things seems to be happening, and that was it. He called me, he made an offer of the deal, and that was the only label I was even considering, because I have a really good relations with them.
Makes
we
sense.
done a lot of albums with Wolfhard, so I knew that I can trust them. I knew that they will do a good job, and the whole music industry is in a weird situation, and a lot of labels are also hurting financially. Of course,
Yeah.
albums are less. There's a lot of issues with the vinyl pressing and the cost for the labels. Like labels are losing money with this whole Ukrainian Russia conflict also in Europe. So I knew that the Napalm can be 100% trusted. So that's what I needed from the label.
Absolutely. And was there any specific reason why you chose the title Stormbringers?
Yeah, there's like two reasons. There's artistic and lame version. The artistic is because a lot of lyrics are based on either like forces of nature, like the song Destroyer,
Correct.
about the storm itself, or just like in general like outside forces that really makes us humans feel small. Like different kind of powers or forces that puts us in our place.
Okay.
That's the artistic version. The lame, like a Man-O-War style of thing is I see us as a Stormbringers, like us as a Wolfhard, our band, and this is our storm that we are bringing back. after like 11 years of silence. But that always when I explain that, it feels super lame.
Come on, man, no. Why?
It feels too heavy metal. Just say that we are the Stormbringers, then that sounds like power metal. I don't know, but yeah, that's because it's not just like we are now doing music again and the band is back, but it's insanely good mood inside the band because we are back together playing the songs we thought we could never play again. Of course, the roles have changed because I play the drums. We are still on the stage. And I never thought I could be playing those songs again with Juho and Pyrrhus. And now with Paavo as a new guy bringing a lot of new energy. So it's there's so much positive energy inside the band. So I wanted to like have a little bit corny title for that also. This is like us bringing our story.
And that's okay because you have to also consider something I personally forget. That we are talking about, for example, Before the Dawn, right? It's 20 years from the first album. So we are probably talking about 2 generations of metalheads in between. So when you say lame because you were born when Manowar was at their peak, so it's different. The scene has changed, man, has changed. We are now considered old. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. And you said that you started working on the music just like you did with Downhearted. So if you were to compare the songwriting sessions between Stormbringers and Rise of the Phoenix, what would you say?
Well, that's a good comparison because that's where the biggest difference lies, actually. Because if I would compare the writing process of Stormbringers to any of the older albums, I would say it's pretty much identical. It's like riding a bike. Once you got it, you will always have it. But with Rise of the Phoenix, we knew already that that's gonna be the last album. With that album, all the problems on the label side was peaking really hard. We really felt that everything is super complicated, and also from that point of view, it didn't look very promising for the future. Already before the album was coming out, like we were writing the album and we knew that this will be difficult in all the possible ways. So on that album and the writing of that album, there's so much frustration and like negative feelings. With this album, it's completely the opposite because it was super fun to get to studio. We had a great label. We had already agency. We knew that there's going to be festivals. In Finland, there's going to be a tour in Europe. There's really good things are happening. We get to have a lot of fun with the band on the road. So it was completely different mindset to write the album when you know that this is going to be a good thing, and we get to do a lot of fun together once again. So completely the opposite.
I'm smiling because hearing you say that you had fun and it was nice. However, the music and sometimes the lyrics are dark, on the dark side, right?
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of music.
Yeah.
Were you involved in the production or the mixing of the album? I know that Juho was involved, and I believe Saku at Sound Spiral Studio was too, right?
Yeah. Saku did the vocal production and the vocal recordings, and Juho recorded the rest, and he did the mixing and mastering. And Juho used to do a lot of the Before the Dawn albums in the past. He's recorded and mixed most Wolfhard albums. So I worked with him with over 12 albums totally already. So we know each other like professionally also really well. Not just, of course, we are really good friends from over 20 years, but as a professionals, we know each other's like handwork really well. So I didn't feel that I needed to intervene with the mixing that much. Of course, I was like giving the green light for the final mix and all the changes and stuff like that. But I also really wanted to give like a lot of freedom for Juho to mix the album the way he wanted to do, because that's his that's where his professional that is his art on the album also, not just the guitar songs, but him being insanely like a gifted sound engineer. That is his art also. So I didn't want to like intervene too much, because I wanted the album to sound like he would have done it. Not the way that I'm telling with every detail, put this louder, put this. That's because he's a crucial part of Before the Dawn, so that should be heard on the album also.
You said Downhearted was the first one. What was the last song that you worked? And I want to see related to how much time that did it take. So I'm trying to see if there was any evolution between the first song and the last song in the songwriting. Like you start to understand the band's, these lineups' capabilities.
The last song I wrote was Chaos Star.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote that in the studio when I was recording drums because I felt that the album needed this kind of like a straightforward, very rocking kind of like a song to make the balance of the album better. So it's the songwriting itself, it took just like 2 or 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty. It goes pretty fast for me. It wasn't like anything different with any of my previous albums. Of course, with the vocals, we took more time. Of course, it takes some time to learn the skill level and different styles of Paavo, and also Paavo hasn't done that many, that much of a studio work before.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really good for him and us to spend good enough time in the studio, just seeing what his voice can do and going through different ideas. But I think, to me at least, it's going to be super interesting to see the evolution from this point to 1 year ahead when we start writing, hopefully, the next album.
Thank you for doing that, because I was struggling if I should ask you, how did you sign with Napalm? Is it a single record deal, or is it open for...
It is more than one album, and even if there would be some reason that Napalm wouldn't want to continue, we would still start writing new music pretty soon.
Yeah, as long as you want, yes, you will find... I didn't want to ask this question because the paint has not even dried in Stormbringers. But thank you for that.
But it's a completely different cycle for the bands and the songwriters than it is for the audience, because this album was mixed and mastered already half a year ago.
Yeah,
so to us, it's nothing new. Like I stopped writing the songs 9 months ago. To me, it would be very easy to start thinking about some new material already, because there's nothing new with this album. But of course, for the listeners, they just heard the full album less than a week ago. So it's bands are always way ahead of the listeners. So yeah, I get that now is not a good time to start talking about new music, because I would need to promote this album as much as I can. But yeah, now it's there was 11 years of silence, but now that we get everything started again, I see no reason to slow down. And we already have big festivals booked for 2024. So there's a lot of momentum now with the band, and plans are going pretty far ahead. So of course, naturally, that brings the band to studio probably pretty soon.
So it's easy for you. You will get into your car and you will come out with the next Before the Dawn album, right?
Yeah.
So now that you mentioned touring, what are the plans? I think you have some festival shows, right, this year?
Yeah. Now, during the summer, we are playing festivals in Finland. Then we're going to do Finnish club tour in September, November, both Before the Dawn and Wolfheart. And we're going to tour the whole November in Europe, including both bands. So we are already full book until December. So it's not just that we get to do an album with Before the Dawn, but this is going to be the busiest gig year for Before the Dawn ever.
So both bands, Wolfheart, man, that will be double duty for you. It's nice.
Yeah. It looks like a good idea on paper. We've done some festivals already with both bands playing on the same stage, and I think it's going to go well. I need to be in a very good condition. I need to rehearse a lot during the summer and keep myself fit. But to me, it's still so much better to do 50 shows in 25 days than 2 tours in a row.
Okay, you know better.
I'd rather work overtime and go home 1 month earlier than just do. Like Markus from Insomnium and Omnium Gatherum. He did 2 North American tours back to back. First with Omnium Gatherum, and then with Insomnium. He was touring 9 weeks in a row. That would be horrible. That would be too much for me.
And you can always add the Dawn of Solace, right? As the opener.
No, that would be. I did that once. When there was the burial gig. I know you don't like the word, but I don't have any. To me, it's the most natural one.
Do as you please. Do as you please, man. Come on.
The ending show.
Correct.
2013. Then I had three of my bands on the same stage, and it can be done. Not that much fun anymore.
I believe you. What about then the US?
First, we need to see how the album does.
Mm-hmm. Fair.
I don't have any numbers yet, but at least what I've seen is he's doing well with the metal radios. So there's positive signs. But also, for a European band, touring in North America is the most expensive thing to do at the moment.
Oh yes.
So we need to be careful. I don't want to put the band in a financial trouble. Things are going well with the Euro tour and the festivals. Financially, we are in a good place. But coming to North America too early and having some issues with the extra cost, that could damage band a lot, because it's very, very risky area. And the whole visa process and everything, man, that it's, of course, nobody's touring in Russia at the moment. But back in the days before the whole pandemic and the Ukrainian crisis, even Russia was 10 times easier with the paperwork and the visas than North America.
I believe you, man. I believe you. Last question. So you have, as we said, 3 bands right now. Before the Dawn, Dawn of Solace, and Wolfheart. Do you have in your mind priorities, or 3 bands are equal to your mind?
Well, Dawn of Solace doesn't really play shows.
True.
And we're not going to do any tours.
Okay.
Because Mikko has a day job, he has a family, he's already busy with his other band, Kaunis Kuolematon. So it would be too complicated. And it's a 2-man band, so we would need to hire the rest of the band. So it would be expensive also. Financially, it would be complicated for promoters and for us. And to me, that music doesn't really belong to all the venues that we could tour with the other bands.
Correct.
I like to keep it as a studio project. So it becomes priority when we go to studio. And when we work with the new album of Dawn of Solace, then that's the main priority at that moment. But otherwise, time will tell. Wolfheart is going to keep on being pretty active, very active. We're going to start working with new material, within a few weeks already. So now studio-wise, Wolfheart is going to be the priority. Luckily, we do the tours together, so I don't need to split my time with different tours. But we'll see. This year, we've been super lucky. None of the schedules are overlapping, even with Swallow the Sun. So Juho is able to do all the Before the Dawn shows and tours. But next year is a big question mark, because, everybody is going to keep on being busy touring. But the current moment sets the priority. Let's put it this way.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah, and even this year has been tough with so many bands out there. It's really difficult for someone to choose where to go and what to support.
After the pandemic was over, it was just like a flood of tours. There was just too many bands touring at the same time, which of course, it's kind of I understand that a lot of bands were desperate to make the money, because if you are making living with music and you don't have any income for 1 or 2 years, that's a huge problem. But it also created another problem that there was a lot of tours that were not selling well. Mm-hmm. A lot of issues with the agencies, of course, promoters. It doesn't help the venues. Every other day is you are losing money, because you are paying the fees for the tour and the band, but you don't get to sell enough tickets because it's just too many tours at the same time. So it was hurting the venues and the agencies also. Of course, there was tours that were not that much fun for the bands even. nobody wants to play.
Oh man, it's
and you, so it's kind of like it creates different problems for like along with the existing ones. So
well, let's. I don't know. I didn't expect to close this interview with in a sad note. So let's stick to to the new album. That's awesome. And please say hi to Vangelis from a fellow Greek.
I will see him in 4 days in Germany. I will tell him.
Great. Thank you very much, Thomas, for your time. Have safe travels, great shows, and hopefully we'll see before the dawn here in Chicago.
That would be awesome. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you, man. Bye-bye.
Bye.